You might know Fantasy Flight Games, who make Star Wars Legion, Star Wars X-Wing, or just been talking about X-Wing there, Star Wars Armada. From a miniatures game point of view, they're a huge company who do lots of board games, things like Arkham Horror card game, and they used to do Netrunner and a lot of other things. But they have basically announced tonight that the Star Wars miniatures games, Armada, X-Wing, and Star Wars Legion, are going to be moving over to Atomic Mass Games. And Atomic Mass Games, if you don't know who they are the company that make Marvel Crisis Protocol. Now you might be thinking like, whoa, what's going on? This sounds like it's huge news. It sounds disastrous. What's going on? Why is it changing companies? Have they lost the license? You kind of have to get in and read the fine print a little bit. So let me just show you the announcement here tonight. And the announcement basically says here, Atomic Mass Games takes its first steps into the Star Wars miniatures games galaxy. Development of Star Wars X-Wing, Star Wars Armada, and Star Wars Legion moving from Fantasy Flight Games to Asmodee's miniatures games focused studio. That's kind of a key point, and we'll come back to that in a second. It says, in a strategic reorganization of its Star Wars miniatures titles, Asmodee is announcing today that oversight of 3 Star Wars miniatures titles will be moving to a dedicated miniatures games studio, Atomic Mass Games. Development of all future miniatures games will be handled by Atomic Mass as well. The move to a speciality studio positions Asmodee's miniatures titles for even greater success in the future. There's a bit of a blurb there about bringing games together and stuff, limited possibilities, incredible new experiences for tabletop gamers. And it says that Simone Elliott, who has shepherded Fantasy Flight's relationship with Lucasfilm licensing since 2015, will lead Atomic Mass Games during this time of expansion as head of studio, and Will Schick assumes primary creative oversight as head of product development, and that there will be key members of the teams involved in the creation and evolution of the Fantasy Flight's current Star Wars miniatures games, who will be moving over. So that's the announcement. Now, why is this important? Let me go back and get this up. So for those that don't know, Asmodee are a huge company. They are one of the biggest companies in tabletop gaming, more specifically in board gaming. If you think of GW and the size that they are and how we kind of talk about them in miniature gaming, Asmodee are kind of that behemoth within tabletop, within like kind of board gaming and stuff. Fantasy Flight Games were bought by Asmodee, I think back in 2015. It might have been a little bit earlier than that. So Fantasy Flight Games are owned by Asmodee. Asmodee also own Atomic Mass Games. So it's not like it's kind of moved to a different company or anything like that. The Star Wars miniatures games, the 3 of them, are staying with its current owner. All that's happening is Atomic Mass Games is now the dedicated miniatures games studio for Asmodee. So any miniatures games that are created in the future by Asmodee will be created under the guise of Atomic Mass Games. So it's almost like they kind of saw this coming a little bit. They created Atomic Mass Games, I think it was 2019, back into 2018? I forget now. 2019, I think. Basically to make the Marvel Crisis Protocol game. A few people who used to work for a Privateer Press, Will Schick being one of them, came across to basically start that studio of Atomic Mass Games. And Will Schick was, if I wrote down here, he was the head of studio for Atomic Mass Games. He's basically stepping aside a little bit, and he's going to be the head of product development. And this other person, who was it, Simone somebody, I forget the name because it's covered over now, is basically the head of studio for that entire miniatures range now. Now there's a few interesting things in this. People are asking questions about what does it mean for the game. What I hope this improves the distribution of stuff. It's really hard to get Star Wars things. I hope this improves that. I think the big thing is it's probably not going to change sort of distribution. Asmodee distributes all of the miniatures stuff. They're a huge company. Fantasy Flight Games basically have been controlling all that stuff. I don't think it's going to suddenly improve distribution stuff. Certainly not quickly, if at all. And if it does, it was maybe something that was going to improve over time anyway. I think the big thing is that they now have a dedicated miniatures games studio. In much the same way, let's think of it on a smaller scale, like War Cradle. at Wayland Games. So Wayland Games is the parent company. We all know who Wayland are. They own War Cradle, or War Cradle is part of the Wayland Games company. And War Cradle are basically their kind of games design studio. It's almost like, think of, I don't know, like almost specialist games within Games Workshop, if you like. So that all of their miniatures games are under one head now. But what it means is Will Schick, whose background is in things like War Machine, Atomic, and with Atomic Mass Games in Marvel Crisis Protocol, is now going to be head of product development for the Star Wars games as well. So I think short term, we'll not really see a lot of changes. I think the way these companies work, the kind of the release schedule and the rules changes and stuff are kind of way out in the future a little bit. It's not like we're going to start suddenly in a couple of months' time see some changes coming. We may see some changes in the community aspect. Maybe they might handle that a little bit differently, because Fantasy Flight Games obviously spread a lot thinner over a lot of different kind of games and licenses that they deal with. So we might see a bit more interaction with the community that way. But it's going to be interesting to see what it does for the future. Will and the rest of the team and the people that come across from FFG, will it help the development of Marvel Crisis Protocol by having a few more people working in the studio? Will it hamper it by seeing the focus of that main team being dragged over into Star Wars stuff? Is this the start of seeing more games coming from Fantasy Flight Games, which will again spread that team across some other things? Are they potentially looking to pull certain games back a little bit to allow other ones to grow? I think that's where the interesting stuff is going to be. But so that news just broke tonight. I thought I would just share that with you. So what's your thoughts on that one?
Thanks for watching my video. I hope that you really enjoyed it. And if you did, why not consider clicking on the suggested video below to see more of the work that I've done. If you'd like to support the long-term sustainability of this channel, why not consider checking out my Patreon, where you can pledge and support from as little as $2 a month. And there is lots of different tiers and bonuses, which will give you access to a private Discord server. It will give you free t-shirts, free mugs, a podcast every month, and a number of other things, including getting your name at the end of every video, like these awesome folks who already support me now.